So financial freedom is actually closer than you think and better than you realize. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 different points where actually you can utilize to get to financial freedom. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have actually separate videos that will cover each one of those points in detail, so that way you can really take those things and implement them in your life. Those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Bashar Katu, and I'm the founder of BJK University, an education company with a mission to impact 1 million lives. Right around 2009, 2010 is when we purchased our first business in America. And this was about 3-4 years after we migrated into America. That's when I realized that in order for one to be able to accomplish financial freedom and be able to control their outcome and their future and their family's future, they need to be able to take control of what they're trying to do. But most importantly, they need to be able to find one thing and focus on it. It's really easy to get shiny eyes and do multiple things. And in my opinion, this is one of the reasons why many people simply just don't accomplish great things in life, because every day there is a new shiny object coming up. There's the NFTs, there's crypto, there are stocks, there's this thing, there's that thing. And it's with so much noise and so much, social media and so many things happening so quickly, it gets kind of difficult for one to pick the right thing and go after the right thing. And that's why, for me personally, when I first started trying to become an entrepreneur or trying to gain financial freedom, at least, I had so many options and I just didn't know how to pick. I remember growing up, my mom wanted me to become a doctor. And so I started going to school. And then I didn't want to become a doctor. And I said, okay, well, let me try to be an engineer. And I started studying to become an engineer. And then I said, well, let me try to be an accountant. Well, let me try. And I probably switched my major like 6-7 times in like a year period, just because there were so many things and I just didn't know which one was the right thing. But then after all, I realized that school wasn't even for me. And that's when I went into entrepreneurship, when I started my first business with my family, which was a local pizzeria. But then what I realized is, after my father, my mother, my brother, and myself, we're all focused on growing the same business. It was just the one business. And we were all wanting to grow that business. And what I realized is we did that for 2 years, and that business grew massively because we were all focused on trying to do the one thing, and it grew. And then what I did is I went into my second business, which was a restaurant business, but I was all over the place. Although it was a restaurant and although it was just one business, but if you came to my restaurant, you looked at the menu and it had like seafood, it had barbecue, it had Mediterranean, it had burgers, it had, all kinds of things. And the cocktails, the cocktail menu had anywhere from like margaritas to fancy, $20 cocktails all the way to $2 beers. And so the customer was a little confused, because was it a dive bar? Was it a fancy, like fancier, a $40 a plate type of restaurant? What was it? And the concept wasn't very clear. In fact, I wasn't even clear about the concept. And that's when I really came across the concept of focus. For me, what focus stands for is focus on one course until successful, FOCUS. That's when I really started realizing that, I need to really do just one thing until all the way successful. What is successful? What is successful? Because each person identifies successful in their own terms, right? For me, when I found success, when I started my Amazon business and I became successful, the question was, can I scale this thing? Because I started wanting to invest in real estate and invest in crypto and buy this thing and buy that thing. I realized that I wasn't being focused. So then I started asking myself, can I keep scaling this thing? And if the answer is yes, then just stay focused on it. If the answer is no, that's when you want to maybe start the next thing. People look at Elon Musk and say, well, Elon has 7,000 companies. I don't even know at this point how many companies he has. And well, if he's got so many companies, then how is he focused, right? Yeah, but don't look at Elon today. Don't try to compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 75,000. Compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 1. When Elon first started, he started one company. He grew it, he sold it. Then he took his proceeds and then he started 2 companies or 3 companies. And then he grew those to tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. Then he started the next thing. If you have a business right now, or you're trying to start a business, or you want to do something, and then you want to do 5 other things, and then you barely have few $1,000s in the bank, you're really not going to succeed. Elon did it when he was at 150 million plus, when he was able to make that much from his company. The second thing is this concept of KISS. There was a guy who showed up to my restaurant. He was like a consultant. You know, he was trying to like help me out. He was a friend of my landlord, and you know, my landlord really liked me, but he realized that I kind of was in over my head and I didn't really know what was going on. And so he came in and then he tried to help me out. And then he looked at my menu. He's like, dude, you've got everything and anything. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, well, what do you know? What is the one thing that you really know? And this was our second business. Well, one thing that I do know, and it's not even on the menu, is pizza. It's a, you know, like Italian pizza and pasta and that kind of stuff. Because the previous restaurant that I ran with my family successfully was that. He's like, okay, so why don't you just dump everything and then just turn it into that? And I was like, never thought about that before. And so what we did is actually we switched completely to pizzeria. And literally within about 30 days, our sales increased by about 40%. They were, you know, we were projecting to keep increasing 20 to 40% every single month. Now, unfortunately, about 45 days later, the restaurant caught on fire. I was late on my insurance bill because the restaurant was failing. And I was like, well, what is the worst that can happen? And I lost everything. But I'll make another video where I talk just about my restaurant and just talk about what that experience was and how I even ended up here and how I own two multi-7-figure, 8-figure companies. Anyways, going back to it, he said something that stuck with me. He said, dude, keep it simple, stupid, KISS. He said, kiss it. It's like, what? He said, kiss it. It's like, what does that mean? He said, keep it simple, stupid. Again, it goes back to the concept of focus. So many times we get into the habit of like, trying to add complexity, trying to do this thing and that thing and this other thing. And all we do really is we just add all these complexities into our lives. We add all these things that simply don't really serve a big purpose. All they do is they just add complexity. They don't really help us accomplish anything great. So if you want to succeed, you want to start with one thing, focus on it, and then you want to keep it simple. And then the last thing is, and again, I won't spend too much time here because I'll break those into individual videos, and because there's a lot more to break down here. But the last concept was the concept of the S-curve. This was taught to me by one of my early on mentors, Sam Ovens. He said, you always in business, you want to have a new S-curve. And what that means is every time, because everything you grow will probably plateau at some point and start going down. So you're going to start from here. You figure something out here and then it goes up. But then at some point that juice will end and it'll start kind of coming down this way. He said, so you always want to have a new S-curve. So what that means is a new S-curve starts from here. So whenever it's going down, and maybe this would probably be more like here. And then in the next, in another video, I'll explain why you shouldn't start a new S-curve here, but you should really start it like right around here. And then what you want to do is you want to figure out the next thing and then simply jump on the wagon of the new S-curve. And that's very important simply because you always want to keep growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying. This is super important for you to understand. And for you to really be able to keep growing your business is to always figure out the next thing, but there is the right timing. And again, I'll explain that in another video, but there is the right timing on when you should start the new thing. Again, if you're always stacking a new S-curve, you're not focused, you're not kissed. So there is the right timing of when to stack the next thing, but you always do need to have the next thing. Otherwise, you will get to the top of this and then it'll start coming down and then you won't really have figured it out. And then you'll get into panic mode here and then you won't even know what to do. And then it'll crash and burn. And trust me on this because I know from experience. Outside of that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe. Also smash that bell thing because we drop 2 to 3 pieces of content every single week. Outside of that, check out the next videos to see the next videos that we have. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.